Major funding for the Independents has been provided by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation to increase public awareness of independent work in film and video. Additional funding has been provided by the National Endowment for the Arts.
Action!
What's your vision of America?
Money, money, more money.
Now, I know what to say, cock-a-doodle-doo.
Short works by independent video and filmmakers. As a group, and I think I can generalize here, independent filmmakers are pretty serious people. By and large, they make movies about serious subjects. And because nobody's buying movies about serious subjects, these filmmakers never have enough money. They don't have enough money to pay the rent. They don't have enough money to finish their movies for years and years. And that makes them all that much more serious. Recently, however, we have found some independent producers who are treating serious subjects with humor. They are cracking smiles. Thin, terse little smiles, but smiles nevertheless. They are using irony, satire, and sarcasm to powerful effect. Our first work is by David Weissman, and it's called Complaints.
I hate when there's pee on the toilet seat, bladder infections, and flaky men.
I hate to be told what to do, but I have to work for a living.
I've had it with instant parents who use disposable diapers with no regard for the environment.
I can never find a bra that fits right.
My girlfriend's parents are freaks, and my roommate is anal retentive.
Cat boxes.
Fat thighs.
Being awakened by a need to urinate.
I hate everything.
TV is brainwashing people into hating themselves and everyone else.
Sound bites have replaced dialogue and reasonable discussion. I'm fed up with people who steal, be it your money, your luggage, or your heart.
I have breast cancer, and the radiation really makes me sick.
I hate when my friends lie to me.
Politicians and preachers are betraying the public trust.
There are no true romantics anymore. No one to warm my heart.
Donna Weiss won't sleep with me.
Help! I'm on the 7th rewrite of my book. There's 32 characters, 5 subplots, and 3 competing metaphors.
I've got chronic back problems, and it's a f***ing drag.
Arthritis is my nemesis. Read my lips.
You can't find a Stalinist when you need one nowadays. You can't. You can't. You can't.
When a bus is practically empty, why must someone sit down right next to me? I write the music for David's movies, and I'm waiting to get paid.
Health spas are such a big rip-off. You pay big bucks, and then for what? No towels, no soap, no service.
I hate that fleas don't die from the cold in California.
I'm poor, I'm short, I'm feeling unempowered. I need a bigger apartment.
I always fall for Jewish boys. All my boyfriends have been Jewish, except for Eric and Leo.
I wish Christians practice what Christ really preached.
My brother is dying of AIDS.
I don't want to grow up.
And you can't get a decent pastrami sandwich in California.
Cartoonist John Callahan is known for the unblinking honesty of his humor and depth of his humanity. Teaming up with producer Kelly Baker and animator Laura DeTrepane, he brings us the true story of his life in I Think I Was an Alcoholic.
The very first time I drank, I got drunk. After that, I drank anything I could get my hands on. Once I started drinking, I couldn't stop. Often, I got sick. I couldn't imagine life without alcohol. Restless and bored when sober, I managed to quit for brief periods of time, but I felt tentative about my sobriety. Booze made me feel normal and uninhibited. It gave me courage to do things I could never do sober. Can I have a second helping of meatloaf, please? I always did silly things while drunk. Ill-advised sexual encounters, bladder problems on the bus. In jail for a minor car wreck at 17, I ended up in a cell with a child molester who looked like Peter Lorre. As I got older, my drinking followed a fairly predictable pattern. Anyone could see I was in trouble, and I resented having it pointed out.
You've got a problem, Callahan.
After I was paralyzed at 21 in yet another car accident, my driver and I were both drunk. My drinking only increased. Hey, there's a $5 bill in my left shirt pocket. Go get me a short case, would you? After my accident, I lived in nursing homes for 3 years, drinking hard and becoming more bitter.
I'm going out to round up the chickens and take them to the pizza church.
That Phil Donahue is quite a gal.
One night, my friend Jay pushed me home from a bar. Drunk, we didn't notice that my foot was dragging beneath my wheelchair. The nursing home attendants removed my shoes and discovered my toes had been nearly scraped off. I was tossed out on my ear. Moving into an apartment, my drinking only got worse. My alcoholic attendant and I drank together. I discovered I'd lost complete control of my drinking. Time after time, I'd take that first drink, knowing it would lead me to miserable drunkenness and horrendous withdrawal. One day, home, alone, and half drunk, I happened to drop my bottle. Try as I might, I simply couldn't reach the bottle. I became so upset, I began to break down. I started screaming and didn't care who heard. I was so frustrated, I began screaming at God, who I didn't even believe in. As I raved, I felt the anguish of my entire life. I cried a deep and cleansing cry like a child. At the same time, I felt strangely comforted. I rolled to the telephone and called for help. From that time till now, I have not wanted a drink. In treatment, I learned that it was alcoholism that made me drink, not my difficult life experiences.
I drank because my shoes were too tight.
I drank because I was named Corky.
I drank because I have an electric machine attached to my back, which forces me to drink.
I'm not sure what caused my alcoholism, but I think heredity played a role in it. Though I'm sober, my basic personality hasn't changed. And I've found a new way of living which really works, even in tough times.
Irony is where you find it. Producer-director John Ray found it in the desert sands of Kuwait, where gay soldiers were banned from serving during the Persian Gulf War. The irony? Gay fighting men have been in every campaign in the Middle East from the days of the ancient Romans to the era of everyone's heartthrob, Lawrence of Arabia. Here's The Desert.
In this place, every man is a giant, lord of horizons, etched in the sky, towering.
A universe.
One man, so much sand. Atacama, Gobi, Kalahari, Tharg, Mojave, Sahara, Rub al-Khali. Oh, just you all. We've been there in the desert as a storm. Let's meet the desert, the wind, the requisite camels, the palms, the pyramids of Egypt, the Sphinx, and more camels. Know where you are? Good. Did I mention sand and heat and life? Prehistoric, pre-Islamic, pre-Christian, pre-Judaic, preternatural, primordial. It was there.
Prefab.
The sand, the desert, so hot, so sandy.
Satellites reveal. Satellites inspire.
Antiquity of myrrh and frankincense. A temple, a goddess and her people.
Astarte, Inanna, Isis.
Before Muhammad,
Ishtar.
They looked to Babylon.
And now love Lucy.
A way of life so old, the Bible was its
phone book.
Edomites, Canaanites, Moabites, Elamites, Amorites, Sodomites.
With their interesting sins.
Alexander walked here, and Ramses, and Cyrus, and Richard the Lion-Hearted, and Israel and Nebuchadnezzar, and Akhenaten, and Lawrence, and Caesar.
Julius Caesar.
And the Hittites. Know where you are? Good.
We've been there as a storm.
Centuries after Caesar came the French in costume to the desert with Napoleon. They came to see the Turk about a Nile. Let's meet the French. Let's meet some soldiers. Now, these French discovered something about Egypt when they got there. Something the Sphinx knew about the Mamelukes. Something old as the sand. Something about a man in the desert.
And the Sodomites.
The French and the Turks, a la Grec, on the Nile, in the shadow of the Sphinx. The troops were surprised. The goddess
amused.
The sand, the desert, so hot, so sandy. The British, intrigued, came later and stayed for years. In Tangier,
Algiers,
El Alamein, Al-Qatar, Port Said, Port Suez, a la Grec, in Araby, at tea time, on a camel, in a tent, on the shore, at night in the stars of the rolling fields of desert.
Here, wash that thing off first.
So sorry, old man.
What's that, my Dave?
Love and war in the desert. A man and a man. And all that sand. The timeless question answered.
Why not? What if?
In rhythm for 1,000,000 years.
Hello. You have reached the goddess. Thank you for calling. At the sound of the tone, please remove all of your clothing and worship my husband.
They did it in the desert together. Until we came in a storm to the desert with Norm to meet an Arab in Iraq. Or was it Mesopotamia? Or Babylon? Or Akkad? Or Sumer? Or Nineveh? Or Sodom? Let's meet us. Let's meet some soldiers. Mighty were the fleets of the mighty. Just their cause.
They said.
No time to lose.
In the timeless desert storm.
Citizen soldiers torn from their homes, ill-trained,
ill-equipped,
ill-inspired. No time to lose. Every soldier counts, but still the time was made.
By the mighty.
Still they found the time for a purge.
After they fought and died.
Decorated warriors.
Rooted out.
Soldiers by choice.
Unchosen.
The indispensable.
Dispensed with.
They got the boot, they got the shaft, they got the axe. Decorated warriors. The gate was straight. Love and war in the desert. War without lovers in the desert. No Valhalla for the children of Sodom. No chance to stride invincibly with taut buttocks into history.
Ooh, you make it sound so sexy.
Oh, jest you all.
I have a question. Who are they protecting?
What did they think they were doing?
I don't get it.
They asked a general why his troops would fight, and he said, for the love of each other.
I don't get that in this context.
Who was this purge supposed to protect?
Was it the camels?
Or did they fear the camels?
Was it the Arabs?
Or fear the Arabs?
The sand?
Xenophobia?
The Sphinx?
Why not? What if?
Comprehension melts in the desert. Fear remains as a residue.
On the sand.
No gun kills fear. So strange.
So strange.
Battling ghosts in the desert, these genius generals of Dune and Air. Lawrence.
And a womb.
Richard Coeur de Lion. Akhenaten.
And Smeagari.
Alexander.
And Bagolas.
Gilgamesh.
And Enkidu.
General Kitchener.
By the way.
The Mamelukes.
Institutionally.
The Bedouins.
Historically.
And Caesar.
Julius Caesar.
And just about anybody, really.
I still don't get it.
Me neither.
In the end, it remains with its ghosts and its children, waiting. It's in heat, eternally, with its question and its mystery.
Why not? What if? Why not? What if?
The sand, the desert, so hot, so sandy.
In our final work, videomaker Meryl Pearlson shows us some very disturbing truths about women who have been mistreated by their gynecologist. In Paws Off, Pearlson hones the edge between rage and humor to a razor sharpness.
He led me into the examining room, gave me my little paper gown, set me up in the stirrups, and as I lay there, wondering what the hell he was doing, I looked up on the wall, and I saw a picture of my friend Bruce Cohen in his graduation uniform, staring at me from above Dr. Cohen, his dad's shoulder.
My first visit to the gynecologist was when I was 18 and I wanted birth control. Unfortunately, I'd chosen my mother's GYN. And he did the examination, and then he gave me a little talk. The talk was that he was a Catholic, had half a dozen kids. My mother had half a dozen kids, and he didn't want to thwart the will of God. So he couldn't, in all good conscience, give me birth control. So I had to go elsewhere. And while I was still lying on the table, he palpated my breast looking for lumps. And then he just sort of stood there talking to me, running his fingers around my breast. Well, I was in a particularly helpless situation and didn't really know what to do. So I pulled my robe down and pretended like nothing was happening, and he stepped away.
So then the doctor walks in, and he says, oh, I've just brought a couple of people with me, but, they're just going to watch. They're not going to do anything. I mean, you're sitting there, you have no clothes on, and you're lying on the table. What are you going to say? No, please get out, and you're also 19 years old. So I said, oh, okay, that's fine. You can come in. And I don't know, it's just all I can remember is him sort of explaining, pointing out like these different things on my, obviously fairly private parts of my body, and this, and look at this, and here we have this. And I was getting increasingly uncomfortable. Then, I think he saw my face, and he saw that I was sort of weirded out. So he reached up and he sort of like caressed my upper arm and said, you're doing very well, it's okay. Which was an extremely condescending move. I really could not believe he did that. Sort of like, oh, okay, I think you are a human being, you're not a specimen, so let me patronize you a little to make sure you're feeling fine.
I think there's something uniquely powerless in lying flat on your back and staring at the ceiling, knees up in stirrups with a sheet draped over them, and I'm not sure what the sheet is for. Is it to protect my modesty, or is it to shield the doctor from having to look at my face while he or she is poking about in my nether regions? There's a psychological side to it that they just don't seem to comprehend. In men, I can maybe almost understand it. In women, I can't understand it at all. I think that maybe a good way to sensitize all male doctors would be to have them in that same position, flat on their back, staring at the ceiling, dressed in a paper robe with a paper sheet draped over their bent knees, legs wide open, and have something very cold shoved up their asses and spread.
Independent filmmakers and video artists are using humor to open our eyes to things we find difficult or painful to look at. For all the millions of dollars that were spent by the network news in bringing us the story of the Desert Storm conflict and the role of homosexuals in uniform, it took John Ray's videotape The Desert with a total budget of $1,157.23 to finally show us the rest of the story. Independent filmmakers have always made remarkable use of very small budgets. Paws Off, Meryl Pearlson's scathing revelation of gynecological exams, cost a total of $200. In this era of shrinking government support for the arts, those kinds of dollar values should be remembered. I'm Buck Henry, and this is Are We On?